Alright, so today we're going to be building the MS-06S Zaku 2 Principality of Zeon Char Azabel's mobile suit. Inside the box we have a number of different plastic runners or sprues and an instruction manual that's going to guide us through the creation. Okay, so whenever we're building the kit we look specifically at the parts that we need. So we have here for step 1 we need A226, A231, and A225. So we have our part board here, A2. We look for part numbers 25, 26, and 31. Once you've located those parts, you want to use your nippers and carefully cut away on the sides there, making sure to leave a little bit of a nub, and we'll kind of get to this later. Okay, so that's 25. There's 26. And 31's right here. The reason why you want to leave a little bit of a nub is because when the nippers cut that away, they stress the plastic just a little bit. And so it can produce some discoloration. And how we fix that, it's by a fairly long process, but it's worth it in my opinion. We cut away just a little bit at a time using a hobby knife. Shaving off just the slightest little bits of that nub there, making it almost impossible to see. Usually finish that off with some very fine sandpaper. Which will then be finished off at the very end with the top coat of clear paint. And once you've cleaned off all your parts, we're going to start putting it together as described in the instructions. You're going to snap in here. And this one goes in there. All right. And after we complete those first few steps, here we are left with the torso. We have both arm sockets there, the backpack, where our head will go eventually, and the joint that it pivots on. Our waist joint here, these piping and hoses here. So what we'll do next is we'll continue each set of steps, constructing the head, the arms, the waist, the legs, and the feet. And we'll piece it all together and we'll have ourselves a finished mobile suit. And here we have the finished head. Now it is important to make sure that whenever you're putting these pieces together, taking them off of the sprue, that you do use your tools very carefully, that you precisely cut down the nubs on the sides of the parts to make sure you get clean cuts, and that each piece looks as good as it possibly can. In some kits, if you don't properly cut things and file things down, make your nubs really clean, the parts actually won't stick together properly, which can lead to other problems. So a frustrating new development has occurred. As per the instructions, the next thing we're doing is taking the front of the waist here and attaching right inside here what will be the joint that the legs will attach to. However, the piece is D117, which here we have D1, and right here, it's hard to tell on this camera, but this is where part 17 is supposed to be. It's not there. So we're going to have to go without building the leg or the hips right now. They're not going to be connected to the legs, so that's exciting, but we'll make do. Okay, so this is just about as far as we were able to get with the basic build of the kit. I've got the legs finished. We've got the body, the head, and the arms. The waist can't be completed because of the missing part currently, though the best option likely to amend that is to scrap build a new piece out of other parts from other kits and pieces of the plastic sprue that we did not use. So that will be looked at later on when there's more time to do that. However, now we're going to move on to some of the next components of building a kit. So we've got the basic finished build of the kit itself out of the box. The next step that's very common to do is to do what is called panel lining. Now, panel lining, the point is all these little grooves in here, which look super impressive, are very well detailed, but they're not very noticeable unless you get really close and look at the kit. So what we do is we use, you can use either certain types of really thin micron pens or the official Gundam markers that are sold by Bandai. I have a gray one and a black one here. I'm going to use the gray one on these lighter colored pinkish reds because I don't want it to be too heavy. But if we did on the darker colored reds, like on the center of the suit here, I might use the black one. So we're going to go ahead and work on a few of those, and we'll take a look and see how that looks once that's completed. Okay, so we finished our panel lining process on the left leg here. So I'm going to kind of pull it up close. So you can see that the lines are much more noticeable between the different parts of the kit on the leg here. Whereas in comparison, some of these just don't stand out quite as much. Kind of hold them side by side. Just makes those shadows pop out just a little bit more, makes those lines more defined. Ultimately, generally helps the presentation of the kit as a whole. Now, one really good way to do this is to just take your marker, your pen, and to run along the grooves where you want to do your panel lining. Then you'll take a Q-tip and kind of follow behind it to clean up any of the excess, because there is going to be some excess. Another popular thing to do with this is to use a panel wash, which is a very thinned out acrylic paint that you can use to pull over it and then wipe off the excess, and that will have those darkened paint wash falling in, have that darkened paint wash falling into the crevices there to bring out those shadows. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is weathering. So once you've got your kit all put together, you've finished your panel lining, you can move on to weathering if that's something you're looking into doing. The weathering kits are provided by Tamiya, and they look like makeup. I mean, it seems like a makeup applicator in here. But, so this one has mud, light sand, and sand. And so I'm going to actually grab the mud one. I'm going to take our leg that we did our panel lining on. We're going to dab into the mud right here, just kind of get a little bit on there. And we're going to go around the base of this foot here. Just get it kind of dirty. It's not showing up too well, but it's faint. Get the brush and kind of even it out a little bit. Over here I have snow, soot, and rust. I've actually used this one a lot more. But I'm going to grab some of this soot. It shows up really well. I'm going to put a little bit over here on the front of this shield here. Not in frame of view. So I can get that to focus in. And the point of doing the weathering is that it kind of produces effect that, you know, will show that these parts have seen wear, that they're not in prime condition. Weathering takes time, and it is very much something you can do just kind of however you see fit. There's not a guideline to it, and it's much more open than the panel lining is. There's pretty strict setup for how your panel lining goes, given where the lines are made on the kit. So that is the basics of building a Gundam. I do not, again, I'm kind of sad that I don't have the part to make all the hips go together so we can have them standing up. But that is it. And once you've finished up, you've got a whole kit that you presented itself. You've started off by removing the pieces from the sprue. You've looked at the manual and read through it to make sure you understand where pieces go. You've connected the pieces together. You've then used your markers to do some panel lining, and then used weathering kits to produce your own personal weathering touch to it. Thank you very much.